Hello, everyone. This video is about how does your particular country and culture relate to your attachment style? And it will hopefully answer questions like, why do people in different countries have somewhat different values of what is important to them in their country? And why are some people brought up in very close-knit families where family is everything, and other countries raise the children to become individualistic and autonomous and fend for themselves from an early age? And because of the differences in cultures, some people look at some other people as being cold, others look at people from other countries as being warm and inviting. And a lot of this is not by choice. It's by learnt behavior from parents. It's by the way the parents have brought them up. And this is what the channel is about, is attachment style, which is the way you are raised as a child and what you see around you in the relationship your parents have with each other is your model. So you are not to blame if you have parents who may have been dysfunctional, had addiction problems, were alcoholics, had no idea how to be warm and loving, and you yourself may have turned out like this, and some people may not understand why you cannot embrace another person, have an open heart, not be shielded, be loving and understanding. And you can come across as being like staunch and even at times narcissistic, where you put yourself first, where you are number one in everything. You may have been told that no one will look out for you. You need to look out for yourself. And this creates in you a natural defense mechanism of allowing yourself to become vulnerable. If you start to give yourself over to someone else and put trust in another human being for your future, you will feel threatened. You will actually not be comfortable with that. And other people, that's what they want. They want to be in a relationship with someone who gives them strength, who is always there for them, someone that's shared their problems with, someone to share their life with, even share a bed with, hold hands, have intimacy. Other people are like, I can't share a bed. I don't even want to live in the house with my partner. I'm comfortable in living in my own house. All these questions and more will be more than likely answered in this. This is a very different video for me where I'm going to actually read off paperwork. I'm going to read from documents I've printed to give some substantial statistical value to, as what I'm saying is in no way an opinion. A lot of it is actually lived experience, which I don't have a problem sharing with people. So I can read off this as 8 pages, but I am going to interject with lived experiences, tales told to me by acquaintances and friends, information garnished from watching other relationship videos. So hopefully it won't be too clinical, but the main focus, as you know, the channel is around Slavic relationships and Stoicism. So the Slavic upbringing, this is about Slavic upbringing, cultural attachment, and the Soviet legacy. So all of the information I'll give you has been researched by people who've done papers and studies. I will give you all the references down in the description. You can go and read more if you want. And if you disagree with something, you can blame them and not me, because I'm just reading what they have written. So I am going to have to put glasses on because they help me read. So this is about the Stoic Slavic model of child rearing, rooted in generational trauma, emotional suppression, collective hardship, Soviet era parenting doctrine. So I've talked about this before, how it's produced children that have grown up who are somewhat guarded, despite the lovely idealism around community and it takes a village to raise a child, which is close to my understanding of the Soviet Union, from what I've heard and read, and the connections I've had with people from those countries. Family is everything. Family goes first. However, it's a different modeling to the West. The West is individualistic. It's like when you're 18, you're an adult and you're out the door and you go live your life. Even though those same people will go, family is everything, they're happy to push a kid out the door and go live your life. And the support might stop there. Even though they go, family is everything, their words and their actions are two different things. So I was interested in the differences in European culture and Slavic culture. There's two different forms of autonomy. There's an autonomy that comes from love and nurturing, where a child is taught to stand on their own 2 feet, but, and this is an important but, they have emotional support still from their parents. Their parents don't push them out the door and walk away. And this is the difference. That person who's autonomous and can live their life in comfort, but know there's support. There's support at the end of the phone. They might even be able to move back home if they have to. Then there's, in some of the upbringing from, say, dismissive parents, these children don't have anywhere to go. They are autonomous through the neglect of parents who no longer support them. It's a completely different way of being individualistic. The dismissive person who's had parents who have pushed them out the door and doesn't want anything to do with them, they themselves are dismissive. They won't allow someone in. They won't allow themselves to love. They won't allow themselves to be open. Now, you will come across these people. Is the majority of the dating pool that you will find. If you are out there actively dating and just run into people who lean in close, who give off a aura of, I want to be in a loving, caring relationship, I want a husband, wife, whatever, partner. And it can seem magical for a while, and then one day it's like a massive door is slammed in your face and they go, I can't do this. I'm not coping. I feel like I'm losing my identity and all of these things. So that's not healthy on either side of it. And it leaves behind a trail of broken hearts, of people sinking into depression because they've thought, I found that magic someone. I'll live my life out with this person. The love they give me is amazing. And then these people hit a wall who are giving you the love and go, oh my God, I don't know who I am. I can't do this anymore. I feel like they could even be like, they accuse you of being an emotional vampire and you're sapping their strength, or they'll make up whatever story they can come up with, or I'm busy and I don't have the time is a wonderful one. It's like, I've had to give up this to be with you, and all these excuses where really unless they're enlightened, they might go, you know what? I'm just damaged. I don't know how to have a healthy relationship. And I'm sorry I dragged you into this. And they will, as Chris Salter says, go on to the next person. He does like this wheel where it's like lonely, find someone, get overwhelmed, get rid of that someone, lonely, find someone. And it's this wheel. And unless they go, I need to do some work on myself, I look at my friends and they can be in long lasting relationships. There's people who have been married for decades and decades and decades. There's some people who marry for 3 years, 4 years and break up. So we're clearly all different, despite the fact that there's sayings of we all want the same things. In some ways, we want practical things. We want a roof over our heads, food on the table, clothes on our back, access to health and education. And we might think through a mirroring of society that we want love. We go, well, those two people look happy over there. This Disney film is all about the princess finding the prince. Maybe that's what I should be doing because everyone else is doing it. Then they go to do it and they fail miserably. And not through, firstly, a fault of their own, but the role modeling as parents has echoed into their very system, their very hard wiring that mummy and daddy didn't show love. Mummy and daddy broke up. Marriage can't work because the first people in my life, my mother and my father, couldn't keep a relationship together. So in my head, that's what relationships are. They're broken. They'll break you. They'll leave you in depression. That person will walk out the door on you. So the person goes, I've gone into a relationship. These triggers come back and they go, you know what? I'm walking out the door before they do because they're not going to break my heart. And that's how they cope. That's their protective mechanism. So there's an interesting thing about European countries can foster a healthy independence. It's like encouragement to do things on their own, to go shopping by themselves, go to the cinema with friends and build community around them. So the parents are a healthy role model of you can do it. It's not like you have to do it because no one will be there for you. It's like, hey, how about I teach you to do this in a loving, caring, nurturing way? And it's different. It's that these people are different. They are strong. They can find a partner. They can love a partner and they can build a family. So what I wanted to read, what was interesting is, so you may or may not know the attachment styles. So I'll quickly run through them. Secure. Most of the population in the world is secure. It's somewhere over 50%. And so I just need to check that this is doing what it's doing. All good. So you got secure. That's the loving role model parents who hold hands, kiss, have intimacy, share a bed, take time out for the kids when they need something. They don't push the kids away. The kids are a joy to them, not a nuisance. Then you have anxious attachment, which is somewhere around 20%. And they're the ones whose parents weren't available to them. They might have had parents who were preoccupied and might have left them alone for long amounts of time and not been emotionally available. They might have been there one day and gone the next. And this creates an anxiety. Like if the mother walks out the door and then they cry, the mother doesn't come in. And then another time the mother comes in. So there's this need for attention, that they want attention, they lean in hard, they can be very quick to say, I love you, be giving with gifts and donate a lot of the time to you. And then it can overwhelm people. This is what the dating pool is full of: anxious attachment of that style. Now, if two secure people meet on a dating site, they're pretty much gone in a couple of weeks. They work it out real quick. So, hey, they ask all the questions they want, and they get the answers. They're happy with the answers. They see the evidence of it. It's backed up by action, and then they'll get off the dating site and live their life. The anxious attachment can go on the dating site and they desperately want someone, because when they find someone, there's a thing called somatic co-regulation. So if they start dating and they hold hands and get hugs and kisses, it calms them down. It's a little bit like the crying baby when the mother picks them up. So they rely heavily on this constant contact. Now, if the other person isn't reciprocal of this or able to lean in as hard and show the same amount of love, it goes not very well for either of them. And this is why there's dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidant, and there's also disorganized. So dismissive avoidant is that one that's brought up by the parents who push them out the door. So they go, being with someone makes me look weak. I don't want to be weak, but being strong is a good thing. I'll stand on my own 2 feet, but society tells me I should have a wife and a family, and I'll do that. But you can have 2 dismissive avoidants together. They'll share separate beds. There won't be much intimacy. It'll be very functional and practical. For some people, I heard stories where intimacy can be like a household chore for the wife. It's like they could have a list on the fridge of cook breakfast, do the dishes, have sex with my partner, vacuum the floor. There's no cuddling after it. There's no loving and affection. It's like, I have an urge to be intimate. I'll meet that urge and get on with my life. There's no lingering enjoyment in it. It's just purely functional. And the fearful avoidant is a mix of those two. So they will lean in heavily for weeks and months, possibly years, and then something happens and they shut the door and they go, oh my God, I've got my time back. I know who I am. I was losing myself. That was glorious when I was in it. I was fully invested, but now I can't be because I've triggered on it. So the interesting thing I've found out recently is there's with what's called disorganized, and disorganized is sometimes called fearful avoidant, but it's under the umbrella. And disorganized, interestingly enough, will lean in heavily, will invest heavily, and they get a little overwhelmed, but they don't close the door on you. They leave it ajar and they have a bit of time to recharge their batteries and they'll come back. And this is encouraging for some people in those relationships where they just learn that their partner might go quiet for a day or two, but they're still there. The fearful avoidant is not there. They'll block you, won't communicate with you, and they'll move on to the next person. So with all that in mind, I will quickly read through these tables and add a couple of stories that have been told to me. So you've got the ones I've explained. So this table just talks about the modern adult term, the core pattern, and this is cool because it's about Slavic people and everyone else. There's a Slavic prevalence. So You have secure, which, as I said, comfortable intimacy, independence. And in terms of the Slavic prevalence, it is lower than the Western average. Okay, so that's the point of the channel, right? It's talking about Stoicism. It's talking about what's embedded in the child from a young age and the way they're brought up. So avoidant behavior, dismissive avoidant, is high. Stoicism as cultural value. Anxious is moderate. It comes from inconsistent caregiving. Disorganized, fearful avoidant is a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma around fearful avoidant. That's I know of people who've told me it can be from rejection of a parent, creates a fearful avoidant. They just realize they can't rely on whatever gender that was, whether it was the mother or the father. So if it's a daughter, say they are rejected by their father who wanted a son. So the father's cold and distant and not there. The girl will grow up to be a young woman whose concept of men is they're not reliable. They won't be there for them. They'll walk away. They'll reject them. They will try to have that need met of intimacy and love. But in the back of their mind, it's like, he's always going to walk out the door. In fact, I knew of a story of someone from a Slavic country that identified as what the West call Murphy's Law. And the Slavic people have a phrase, the law of underhandedness or the law of meanness, whereas like the worst possible thing will happen at the worst possible time. So these people will, for a while, lean in. They will even get married and then they'll get divorced. The statistic of Russia, despite the resistance from a lot of people who don't want to look it up, Russia has a very high divorce rate in comparison to the rest of the world. A couple of reasons. One reason, as one Russian person said, it's very easy to get married and it's very easy to get divorced. And this person explained it quite well. I forget the channel, but you could find it. And it's sort of like they go into long-term relationships, right? So even though someone might go, I've had 8 partners, it's not like it's a frivolous, they're not like promiscuous and just want to have a good time. They actually enter into 3-year, 4-year or longer relationships. It's the same as people who've been married 4 or 5 times. They go in with the best of intentions. I've said it before and I'll say it again. No one goes and gets married with the intention of being divorced. They're not at the aisle going, I do, for better or for worse, sickness and health, and go in the head, I bet this lasts me 6 years before I'm looking again. No one's thinking like that. No one. And so people need to understand when things break down, it's not because people are horrible, cold, and heartless. And you hear all these stories about cheating. I've done a video that cheating is actually the lowest reason for a breakup. You can go look it up for yourself. Society's programmed into us that it's the major reason. It's not. There are a plethora of reasons above infidelity. So when you just see 2 people arguing or hear about 2 people breaking up and you go, bet someone's cheating on someone, you know what? You're probably just wrong. There will be times you are right, but it's a lower number of being right than things like the children have left the nest. They've organically grown out of love with each other. They're different people to who they were when they got married. And many other reasons. So with that, we'll go to table 1. So this is countries. This is what I was interested in when I did this. I was sitting around thinking, would there be different attachment styles in different countries? And there actually is, and it's culture. So you have in the whole world, and this is talking about children, secure is 51%, avoidant is 14.7, and anxious is 10.2%, and disorganized, which is actually fearful avoidant. The first one would be dismissive avoidant, 14.7. Fearful avoidant is really high, it's 23.5. So in the USA, you have 60% secure, dismissive, 20%, fearful, 20%. So that's infants. The adults is 56% secure, 25% dismissive, 19% the rest. Britain, 75% is secure, low avoidance and low anxious. Northern Germany, now this is an interesting one, 34% secure. So the highest recorded of dismissive avoidance is 52% in Germany, 13%. So let's look at that. Britain. So what's different about Britain to the rest of the world that they are secure at 75%? What do we think of when we think of Britain? So Britain does have strong family values. They do. They're very community orientated. The neighbours know each other. The neighbours will be the ones that knock on the door and go, can I have a cup of sugar? I've run out of this. Could I have a spoon of butter? The neighbours are like, sure, not a problem. And they might be, why are you here? Come in and have a cup of tea. A neighbour might knock on the door, look depressed, and go, oh, my dear, I will put the kettle on. So they're supportive, they're community-based, they'll go down the pub, the men will drink beers together. They're a real social collectivism. So why is Northern Germany different? That's the healthy autonomy I was talking about. So even though they're listed as avoidant, it's not in an unhealthy way. They're the ones who are brought up who still have the emotional support. So then you've got Japan, 68% secure, China, 50% secure, dismissive, 25%. So that's yeah. So Japan 68, China's 50. I don't know enough about the cultures to actually make comments on it. So if anyone wants to add to that, they can. So I will then go on to table 2. Now, we might say, how does politics and economic systems enter into this? It's whatever your concepts of socialism, communism, and capitalism are, it's pretty much agreed upon that capitalism creates individualism. And it's the capitalist countries where they push the kids out the door at 18 and says, you're an adult, go fend for yourself. And they might say, oh, I'll be here for you. But you hear stories of some parents moving house and not telling their kids where they are. And you hear a lot of trauma stories from the West. There's lots of, around Mother's Day, there's lots of daughters who go, oh, I'm not going to see my mother. All she does is say, why are you so fat? Why don't you find a partner? You can get a better job. Just criticism after criticism after criticism. The daughters just feel awful and they go, you know what? I am done. I am not going to see my parents again. And what society say about that? Society is very, very good at reimagining the family unit as you should be thankful to your parents that you were born. There's a whole argument that you don't owe your parents anything because you did not ask to be born. There was a phase at one point of children divorcing their parents. It's like, and then a lot of the people who go, you should respect your parents. Well, there's a saying that respect is something that is earned. Just because you came out of your mother doesn't necessarily mean you need to respect her. If she treats you poorly, if you have fathers that beat you, that beat their children, disrespect their children, abuse their children, that child doesn't owe that parent any respect whatsoever. So political systems. So you've got West Germany, FRG is capitalist. So, and you've got East Germany. So this page that came down from one research was political system, liberal democracy, it's capitalism. So that's the differences in that. So there's not really numbers about, well, you've got childcare philosophy. So West Germany, maternal bonding valued, maternity leave up to 3 years, child stays home with mother. East Germany, state-run daycare from infancy, collective child rearing, independence valued from early age, parenting style. In the West, nurturing, sensitive maternal role, emotional availability encouraged. In the GDR, rigid, independence focused, emotional restraint normalized. Stoicism, good old stoicism. Let's just be a rock and not feel, because that shows people that I'm strong. Our other argument is if you are loving and caring and are there for people, that's strength, that's resilience, and that's the dependability. Some people would consider that if a person can be depended upon, that's strength. But if someone shuts the door on them and goes, that's your problem, not mine, that's weakness. There's no strength in that at all. So parenting style, West, nurturing, sensitive maternal role, encouraged availability, emotional availability. So in the GDR, it's rigid, independent, focus, emotional restraint, normalized. Yeah, we did that. Attachment outcome. West, higher secure attachment, avoidance seen as a problem to address. How wonderful is that? People go, well, you are cold and heartless and can't be relied upon. And if someone realized they were becoming like that, they would go, this isn't good. I used to be loving and caring and could love people and be loved, and now I'm becoming colder and harder. And they go, this isn't right. And that's a healthy attitude to have when you flag yourself on your behavior. So the GDR was higher insecurity attachment, avoidance culturally framed as healthy independence. And this is what the start of the video is about, that how you can be independent, but independent from a healthy perspective and reliable. You are there for people, but you don't necessarily break down when things get hard. You can be a rock and be caring, versus stoicism, you're a rock and not caring. It's a big difference. So post-reunification finding, the West full-time care before the age of 3 linked to greater psychological burden. Okay. And so let's have a read of that and pull that apart. So West Germany, after reunification, finding full-time care before age 3 linked to greater psychological burden. Okay. So saying things weren't as good after reunification. So the GDR, same early care, not linked to burden, different norms produce different outcomes. Now that's very interesting. So it's showing the children receiving full-time care before 3 were having trouble forming relationships later. So generational legacy, the West is relatively stable parenting patterns across generations. GDR was maltreatment disparities persist even in generations born after reunion. Exactly. So that's the thing about this is the thing. I've done videos on intergenerational trauma, epigenetics, the XRTR gene. I think that's what it was. You can look it up. The 7 alleged things that have been found now, genes in our bodies that haven't been found generations before. So this is generational. This is passed down through generations. There's things like trauma. Trauma, it's been proven time and time again of intergenerational trauma. People can be born with anxiety, depression. They've not incurred it in their lifetime, but the mother carries the trauma in her gene. It's a new field of research. There's still a lot to do with it, but it's certainly there. It's the same as, I've said this before, it's the same as like some children love water. They get taken to the beach and they'll run and jump in the water and frolic around and they're happy. There's other children completely terrified of water, but they've never had a bad experience with water. And this is something beyond their current life cycle. This goes back to the mother. And then there's things like the father screaming at the mother while the baby's fetus. There's all of this stuff. So onto the last table, and there's this. So this is the Slavic cultural patterns and outcome patterns. So emotional expression, stoicism modeled by parents, emotional needs minimized. Don't cry, normalized from infancy. Likely attachment outcome, dismissive avoidant. Child learns emotions are not welcome or safe to express. And ta-da, here we arrive at if Western men have an interest in dating Slavic women, there is just an infinite amount of channels on Instagram and TikTok. There's a whole bunch of Slavic women who do things with slightly humorous aspect. However, under the humor, a lot of it's very real. There's a lot of the Slavic women, and I'm not limiting this to Slavic women. Western women have become have very high standards in what they want from men. They see no point in dating a man that would have a lower income than them. It comes down to practical needs of even though it's materialism, although the Western woman approaches it differently from the Slavic woman. The Slavic woman's grown up with scarcity, and knows what it's like to have nothing, and knows what it's like to face losing everything in a moment. The Western woman is more like, I'd rather be sitting in a BMW than a Morris Mini, or take your pick. It's like it's sort of the one-upmanship game of being better than the Joneses. It's like where you're never happy with what you got. You always have to get the bigger screen TV. You can't let your neighbors outdo you because it's all about being better than someone else. And when you look at communism, socialism, where everyone's equal, it's a completely different way of viewing things. It's more about the woman wants to know there'd be food on the table. The woman will appreciate a nice meal. They'll appreciate a nice dress that's bought from the simple, practical things. Whereas the West is like way beyond practical application, and they're still never happy. So it's like the concept that money buys happiness has been debunked time and time again. Because if money bought happiness, everyone would already be happy. You've already got it all. You got your TV, you got your refrigerator and stove, but you're still not happy. So you want something else, but then you're still not happy. So there you go. Money's not buying you happiness. It's buying you a dopamine hit. And you can get that from going for a jog down the road. So, and that's the thing. So you got dismissive avoidant. You have generations of women and men who can't form healthy relationships. I have been informed by people where Slavic women have come out and said things like, they know all the women around them can't form healthy relationships. They expect it to go wrong. They expect to end up in divorce. So they'll walk out the door before it can happen. And so hence the fearful avoidant. I mean, we can go look it up. They are fearful of losing themselves, or they are fearful of being abandoned, like daddy rejected them. So parental availability, both parents often working, state daycare common, emotional attunement limited by time and doctrine. The outcome is insecure attachment, inconsistent availability, produces anxiety or shutdown avoidance. And that's really quite interesting. I mean, even though a child's in daycare, there's stories of children in daycare identifying their carer as their mother. They're like, they get more attention from a stranger than what they do their own parents. So is there any wonder there's a massive disconnect in that person when they try and form a relationship with an adult? It's like family doesn't mean anything to them. Family's not the most important thing to them. Some stranger in that building down the road is the most important person in their life. So trauma transmission, generational war trauma, economic hardship, political oppression, survival over connection, produces fearful avoidant, child wants closeness but expects hurt or abandonment. I've sort of already covered that, but that's actually a produced document from research. So relationship modeling, parents rarely modeled verbal affection. I think that's quite true. I mean, how many people hear Slavic people openly expressing stuff? A lot of Slavic openness is behind closed doors. They might say that they love their children behind closed doors, but some Slavic people will actually show it more. They'll cook great meals for them. The washing will be done. The house is clean. And that's their way of expressing love. That's their love language. So the thing from parents rarely modeled verbal affection, open conflict resolution, or emotional intimacy. So if they had differences, they wouldn't settle them in a respectful manner. Parents might just not talk to each other for days. And they won't share beds, and they mightn't even know how to have real intimacy. It would be that dysfunctional sex that I talked about at the start. So adults lack a template for secure bonding, reproduces avoidant or so these children So if you lean in and you form a relationship with someone and they shut the door on you, you can abuse them. You can say, they're ghosting me. They're a narcissist. They're this. They're this. They're the other things. They're any swear word you want to level at them. You can say that, but if you don't want to do the research and learn why did they do that, what's happened that they are like that, there is an infinite number of research books out there you can read. You can read the attached book. You could even read the 5 love languages, and you can get a grip on when you want to enter relationships and you see flags. Seriously, heed the flags. If the flag pops up, you're probably better off running right there and then. And you won't seem unreasonable. You go, you know what? I don't think you can meet my needs. The same as if a woman is like, if you're not earning 130,000 a year, I have no interest in it. So a man can say to a woman, if you can't share a bed with me and cuddle me and hold my hand and kiss me, you can't meet my needs. It's like men have as much right as a woman to say, I need and want this in a relationship. And if you can't meet those needs, I can't see the relationship working. They are not mean-spirited. They are not whatever swear word you want to call them. It, in that case, is the woman's fault. If the woman wants a man who can express love and that, and they're cold and heartless, it's not the woman's fault, it's the man's fault. So we need to look at, if we want to blame people, we blame the right people and not the wrong people. It's the same as when I've done it in one other video of how women despise being objectified, and yet you will find, and I'm not saying that men don't do this, but I've never heard of men doing this, but I know that women will gather around the water cooler. Someone goes, my husband left me. Then they have a photo of, he left me for this person. They go, oh my God, she is blah, 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 and you're so much more blah, blah, blah. But being pretty doesn't equal being nice. You can be incredibly good looking, but you could be emotionally unavailable. And the less attractive woman could be loving and caring and nurturing and give that person what they want. Alternatively, the same with women. If the women have a man who's cold and heartless, who won't buy flowers, who won't buy boxes of chocolates, who doesn't say, I love you, you mean more to me than anyone in the world, and then a man comes along that treats them like a princess, they want to go to the man that treats them like a princess. You can all look at that and think what you want. It's like, people have every right to have their needs met. If they want to be happy in the world, and we're all told to be happy, and that's what they need to do, then we need to start living with the consequences of what our actions and behavior are. Even if it's not really what we want to do, we can go, maybe I need to do some work on myself. Maybe I need to hold my wife's hand. Maybe I need to get her some flowers. Maybe the wife can go, maybe I should put my head on my husband's lap and let him stroke my hair. It's like there's all of these things. We can always do better. There's always room for improvement. So the cultural value system under the Slavic system is strength is not needing others. Dependence is weakness. Asking for help is being a burden. Produces dismissive, avoidant, dominant. Vulnerability in relationship feels threatening or shameful. I more or less covered this. Family orientation, strong family loyalty, but expressed as obligation and duty, not warmth or chosen connection. And this is the other thing about Stoicism, of duty to husband, duty to family. This is very interesting. Being reliable and dependable, but emotionally unavailable, doesn't necessarily produce healthy children. It's like you can have parents that are amazing providers. You've always had food, you've had clothing, but if you've never had love, being loved, and maybe eating a lesser quality meal is more valuable to your ability to form a relationship. Maybe if you didn't eat as well, you didn't have a 5-star meal and you had a 3-star meal, but it was cooked with love and you could play with your parents and they were there for you, that will produce someone better than from a rich family where the parents are never there, some nanny looks after them, and you can have this spoiled rich brat that jumps up and down when they don't get something. So I think this is the last one. And it will be time to wrap it up because everyone will be long gone by the time I get to the end of this video. So Slavic attachment data is sparse, so not a lot has been written about it. There is now, though. There's many books written by Russian psychologists on attachment style and that. It's becoming more common now. But what's just accepted as the way things are, I think each new generation has a right to question it and push back on it. It's like we're not going to progress unless we actually question what was done. Medicine progresses, science progresses. We now have phones, computers, which we never had before. So it makes meeting people easier, but it's also created, unfortunately, like a disposable commodity of like if there's some fight, some people don't want to work through it. You can read the Love Languages book, and there's things like protest behavior, like you don't sit down and logically work through an issue, you actually just blame the other person for something. So I think that is more than enough for this video, and hopefully you get something out of it. And feel free to look at other videos and do your own research, and maybe this has answered some questions that you've had about why is that person like that. We can always find out why. We can even ask them. That's why a lot of people are like, what was your childhood like? A lot of people think it's a load of baloney that you can just change who you are. And I always question this. I just say, if we could all wake up tomorrow and be the person we want to be, we would be. So clearly it is not that easy.